in attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan, with Commissioner Brooks joining us by telephone. Are there changes to the agenda?
No.
All right, hearing none, we will go ahead, and we've got our Chief Deputy Assessor, Ben Cardinger, here. And we will start with items 1 through 144. Fantastic.
Yep, so Ben Crodinger, Chief Deputy Assessor for the record. Yeah, so just like you said, Commissioner, items 1 through 144 for homeowner exemption. So unless you want me to kind of say anything in particular on it, it's the same old for these. It's just how we have to go about doing them.
Right. So, any thoughts, questions?
This is just a regular protocol that we must go through. So, no, there's no questions. And
Well,
obviously,
I think we were going to find a legal opinion to say if we can do this via consent calendar.
I believe Commissioner Matari, right, you ended up getting an opinion that they do have to be on.
we
right?
have to go through
Yep.
BOE.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But at least, we can, you can pass them all like this fairly quickly, so.
Sure.
There's a positive.
And I think we just have this backlog right now.
Yeah.
And things will start to get more manageable.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be like this. The issue is that because of, I believe it's House Bill 562, I think it was 2 years ago, there used to be, a date where you could apply up to this date and you get homeowners exemption. With House Bill 562, you can apply any time of the year. The issue with that is we closed the roll. And so I can't apply the exemption, as I would, because everything is supposed to be set in stone. So the way we have to go about it is with these. So I think historically, the first year that we got House Bill 562 in, I think we went from, because we have all the reasons for the cancellations you've seen now. I believe we went from having, it was something like 30 or 40 cancellations, it went up to 720 or so, and with about the 700 of those being just for homeowners exemptions.
Right.
So,
But hopefully there's a cleanup bill or it's in court right now, so.
yeah, and every
Like
county is
that
dealing
fits.
with this because the application of it is just a little bit tough on the administrative side.
Okay.
Yep.
So if no further questions, I would take a motion for items 1 through 144.
You do not want every AIN listed?
You know what? I am waiting to drive home in the snow, so I
You're
just don't.
saying go for it, huh?
Well, that's how we did it last time.
I move that we approve every homeowner exemption on today's meeting, items 1 through 144.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, can we handle items 145 and 146 together? They actually look completely identical. Not sure about that.
They're not perfectly identical, but they are related. So for this parcel, I'll kind of read through the reasonings here. So essentially what happened was this home was put onto the 2022 occupancy roll. We believed that it was occupied in 2022. This turned out to be not the case. The buyer showed us information otherwise. So the issue is when you have something like this, we put it on 2022 occupancy, right? Well, because of that, it's automatically going to go onto the 2023 annual roll. So there's kind of, some downstream effects of that, right? So what we wanted to do was essentially cancel it for the occupancy in 2022 and then cancel it for the annual in 2023, I believe. Let me see, just so I know 100%. Okay. Oh, yeah, I believe, so this 2022 occupancy. Yeah, okay, so it's what I said. Yeah, so essentially it would be removing it from 2022 occupancy, and then the second part of it is changing it from annual to occupancy on 2023 and making it a prorated value. So.
Sorry, I'm just going in.
No problem.
Yep, okay,
Motion?
please.
I move that we cancel the occupancy for AIN 344915 for 2022, and that we cancel the, would it be value? Or the occupancy on an annual basis for AIN 344915 in 2023 and prorate the value.
Perfect.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, timber exemptions. Do we want to go through these one by one? There are
A few of
7.
them are kind of bunched together.
Okay.
So, let's see. So for the first one under AIN 348852. So, the landowner applied for the timber exemption before the deadline, but it could not be processed until after the deadline due to a lot line adjustment. So I kind of mentioned this, the last meeting we talked about it. The way that, we have to process documents and apply an exemption. I can't apply an exemption to something if a lot line adjustment hasn't been made yet, right? So you have to wait until the mapping is finished, then you can apply something like this. But like I said, if the annual roll has already happened and, BOE is already done, the values are done, the only way we can apply it would be something like this, so. So that's for the first one. The next one on AIN 348851, that's the same exact situation. Applied for timber exemption before deadline, but could not be processed until after deadline due to a lot line adjustment. And then last one, same exact thing, 348850, applied for before deadline, but cannot be processed until after deadline due to a lot line adjustment. So you could probably, because they're the same owner, if you want to make a motion for the three of those, since they're the same situation, and they're also sequential AINs, so.
These are all timber exemption adjustments, right? So they really
They
fall
are.
under the same category. There's no special motion we'll
Okay.
probably need, I would suspect.
I don't think, I just wanted to make sure though.
Yeah, okay.
So moving to the next one, AIN 228868. So timber exemption was removed when the title changed to an LLC. Since they're the same landowner with the same forest land use, exemption was reinstated for 2023. So essentially how this works is typically, now there are only, the northern counties, 5 or 6, that really do the timber exemptions like I was saying. We tend to be the county that kind of not necessarily sets the policy or anything like that, but because we have the highest quantity, normally the way that we do it is what seems to be followed. Well, we were going through statute specifically, just internally, a year or two ago, and looking at what is required with an exemption if there's change in ownership, right? So change in ownership in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean that an exemption would need to be removed, because let's say you're changing the ownership from me to an LLC that I own and just solely me, right? And the land use is still exactly the same and the plan is exactly the same. We decided to make it that they would not have to reapply. And so because of that, you have situations like this where automatically with ownership, unless we had somebody telling us that the LLC was their ownership, we wouldn't have a way of knowing that. So usually, the owner, they'd say, hey, that LLC actually is owned by me. Here's my documentation. I'll say, okay, we will reapply and give you, the same exemption that you had before using the same plan. So just some information, because there are probably going to be a few like this in the future where it ends up being the same thing, so.
Is that the same for the rest of them, largely? I
There
mean,
was one lot line adjustment.
Yeah, so for AIN 178115, same thing. Title change to a trust, but they're the same landowner,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
There you go. And then the one after that, 127325, that was just like the first three with Soderbeck. Same thing. Applied before deadline, but couldn't process it after. And then the next one, 123633, that's the same thing with a title changing to a trust, same ownership. Yep.
I'm fine with just doing 147 through 153 to do the timber exemption adjustment.
I move that we approve the timber exemption adjustments for items 147 through 153.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, can we handle 154, 155, and 156 in a group?
We should be able to. I don't
Okay.
see any reason why we couldn't. So for the first one, 144688. So this one, kind of one of those situations, if the land or if the homeowner doesn't tell us about the use, then, we don't do interior inspections. So I'm not able to tell, our appraisers aren't able to tell whether or not a manufactured home would be used for storage unless specifically told that, right? So in this case, it's used for storage. It shouldn't be charged a solid waste fee. So that's for the first one, 144688. Now for this next one, I believe, it's Idaho Department of Fish and Game, so they're not, well, it depends. We have certain special assessments that even exempt parcels would technically pay, but in this case, they should not be billed a solid waste fee. And then, let me see, for 110112, I don't know if this was put on there specifically, but I'll read the note. The home was demolished by the city in March of 2023, and solid waste is billed a year in advance, right? So due to that, it was demolished. It was, billed a year in advance, shouldn't have been billed, but you don't know that they're going to demolish it until a certain time. So, yep. Those are
All
the three.
right,
154 through 156.
please.
I move that we approve the solid waste fee adjustment for items 154, 155, and 156.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right, 157 through 161.
Yep, these are all the same thing. The parcel they were transferred to the city of Rafter, making them exempt. But once again, you can't apply that in the system without getting some sort of cancellation like this. So it all depends on time frame, right?
Okay, do we know when the parcels changed hands?
I can find out fairly quickly. Let me see. Only take me a second. I believe it was after, but I will double check though, just to be 100% sure.
Wouldn't the city pay for the property taxes at the time of transfer?
So, yes and no. So if the date is, let's say, October 1, so then all the fees the seller would have to pay up until October 1, then October 1 to the end of the year would be canceled.
Okay, but it would be collected during the transfer process? Okay.
Yeah. Because, I mean, these values, it's like $1,000 value. This one is almost 900,000.
Yeah.
Another 1,000.
And there's a 250 in there.
So I looked it up. The actual transfer was in May of '23, but
Okay.
we can't process that until after we close the BOE actually, because that's just how our system is. Like even though, you may have done a transfer deed or, something like that in May, we just how our system is, we can't process, most plats, segs, or merges until after the roll is done. Because it ends up affecting, this is a whole technical thing. We've talked with XTR about this before and, internally.
Something that we can get fixed.
Maybe, but essentially, let's say, because we go off of 1/1, right? That's our dates, it's how it was as of 1/1. Well, this transfer wasn't as of 1/1, it was as of May, right? Well, the annual roll is still open. Apparently, if we make the transfer, it would end up affecting the 1/1 ownership.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Right,
So
right.
something with how the system is, I don't know. We've talked about this, had a lot of discussions, something we've been trying to fix. But unfortunately, within that time frame, we can't do them. That's why we end up having a backlog after. Our
Right.
backlog is like fairly long. People say like, oh, I'm trying to get, an address, or I'm trying to get, the deed to be recorded. It takes a while for us to actually process them. So
Right.
Are we doing a cancellation, an adjustment?
I believe for these,
moving them to exempt?
Yes, oh, we already did that.
Declaring- yeah,
Yeah,
they-
we already
so they're
did that. So this would just be for 2023. 2024.
Cancellation then.
Yeah, I believe it's just a cancellation. You'd be canceling the market value off of them for 2023.
Well,
Yeah.
All right, I move that we cancel the market value for items 157 through 161 for 2023 and moving forward.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, and I would just clarify that that would be as of the May date where Rathrum became an owner.
Yeah, I think that's,
It's in your paperwork. so-
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we now have 162 to 164.
Okay, so for the first one here, and 170361. So fairly straightforward one. Manufactured home was moved to Benoit County in 2022, was not deactivated for 2023. Essentially, we do our annual inspections, and depending on the time frame that you're in our 5-year appraisal cycle, if you don't notify us that your manufactured home moved, we're not required to look every single year. It's once every 5 years. So, they tell us after the fact, we go confirm, and then there you go. So that's for 170361. Next one is 155416. So this is for personal property, actually. So and you can see the amount is not very significant here. It's a fairly small amount. Personal property, we get their kind of whole asset list and everything. And once again, we have to get information from them, from the property owner, whether or not their assets have changed. So in this case, assets were disposed as of 1/1, and so we're removing them. Like I said, it's only about 20,000 in value. So that's for 155416. Last one is 116873. Manufactured home was demolished in 2022. Contacted us, when they contacted us, and then we remove it. So
Okay.
So what are we doing here, an adjustment?
for all of them, or for
For,
Well, I think a 62 and 64 would be, the 162, 164 would be the removal, and then the 163 would be the
adjustment?
adjustment.
Exactly. Yep, that's correct.
okay.
Technically, I don't know the technical way that the board has to do it, but we do have an original and amended. And so even when the amended is 0, I don't know if you're able to make a motion saying, from original to amended or something like that. Just as a note, I don't know though. Just thought I'd mention it.
Well, so for 62 and 64, what are we, we're just saying that I moved.
Amended to 0.
Amended to 0.
Yep.
Okay. I move that we amend the property AIN 170361, excuse me, to 0, that we adjust AIN 155416
As recommended.
as recommended, and that we amend AIN 116873 to 0.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Public comments. Hearing none. 219. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.